Hey guys, Carries50 here with another review. This time I'll be reviewing the deluxe Thundergale ViStamp from KamenRai Revice. This is a special ViStamp that gives KamenRai Revi and Vice their next power-up form. So, let's get started. First up, we'll look at the Thundergale stamp on its own. So, as per usual, with this being a power-up ViStamp, it has a unique shape to it. Not too much different than the size of a normal ViStamp, but quite a different design. Uses three primary colors, that being semi-clear pink, yellow, and a little bit of metallic blue. And it's easiest to tell what the design is if we look at it from the side, where you can see this is a T-Rex head, similar to Revice Rex, that then has this turbine with thunder coming out of it in its mouth. And see, of course, because of the clear casing, you can see a lot of the insides and the batteries. You got this pre-sync button on top, as well as the stamper on the bottom. It does have some spring-loaded pieces in the back, though you'll see what these are used for later. You can also test what sound it makes on its own. So first, we'll press in the button, and this will also show the main gimmick of the stamp. Which is that it has a turbine inside. It actually does spin for quite a good while, because they seem to have designed it to have quite low friction. Then we also have the stamping sounds, and the half press for the standby sound. Next, we use the Thundergale ViStamp with the Revice driver, though the transmission is a bit more involved than usual. First up, as usual, we'll activate the ViStamp and then stamp it into the belt. Then we'll press the button again and then turn the lever. And that allows the transmission to go off with the turbine spinning the whole time. And you probably did notice that I have a bit of difficulty putting the stamp into the belt, and that's mainly because of the prongs in the back, which do give a bit of resistance. But with this, we have the transformation into KamenRai Revi, KamenRai Revice, which is basically a purified version of Jack's Revice, though it does create a bit of a naming scheme problem, because as you hopefully know, and as something I've incorporated into my reviews, the name KamenRai Revice, besides being the show title, has also consistently been a name for the combination of Revi and Vice together. And while the two are fused into one, it does make things a little bit strange, and this, as far as I know, is not even the final form. So if they wanted to call a form KamenRai Revice, this feels like it's almost too early to do so. But with this, you can also see the stamped image, which does look a good bit like a stampified version of the front of the ViStamp. So from there we can activate the two special attacks. The first one is done by pressing the button and then activating it the normal way. That activates the BAKUBAKU REVICETRIKE. It also has a remix attack. which is the BAKUFU BAKURAI stamping finish, with BAKUFU and BAKURAI basically meaning explosive wind and explosive thunder. Next, even though it might not look like it, the Thundergale ViStamp can also scan other ViStamps, though rather than having some other port for it, it scans it via the normal infrared signal on the back. And while the stamps are, or the sounds it makes are pretty similar, the reason why I brought in the entire ViStamp bar is because the color patterns are quite interesting and not what you'd expect. So I'm going to show you all of them so you can get a better idea of what I mean. Going panel by panel, we'll start with, of course, Rex. And this is where these hooks come in, as they're meant to be used so that you can properly line and hook one ViStamp on the back of another. Now I direct the lightning tornado attack. As you can see, the light pattern there was one that made a good amount of sense. It had a kind of light blue and purple, which definitely fits for Rex genome. From there it starts to get a bit more on the strange side. Next is Megalodon. So for that one, even though it was a bit hard to tell, that one was red and green, which is almost a fit for Megalodon, but it would have been more fitting to use pink. Next is Eagle. Which gives us green and blue. And again, purple would have been more fitting as the secondary color. After that is Mammoth. For that one we got blue and red, which doesn't make a lot of sense because that stamp is colored red and white. Moving on, the next one we'll use is Terra. And if you notice, that uses the same blue and red color pattern as was used for Mammoth. So if you haven't guessed by now, it basically means that whatever color pattern it uses is based on the base light color of whatever stamp is being scanned. Then you have Lion. Which has purple and what seems to be either pale yellow or white light. And again, it doesn't really look a lot like the colors used for this ViStamp. So you can probably already tell what's going to go when we use Jackal. The same color pattern. Although the secondary light, or the top light here, might actually be pink. It's a little hard to tell the difference between the pink and purple light. Then you have Kong. which is orange and pale blue, though this uses a normal blue color for the front. Then we have the inverse of that color scheme with Kamakiri. Which gives us the same blue and red light scheme that was used for the two red light vice stamps. Then finally we have Brachio. Which uses a purple and yellow color scheme, which is close enough, even though the light color here is supposed to be pink. And so here you can kind of see a little bit of a weird detail with this feature, which is that what can be seen is that instead of catering to the different individual colors used for these vice stamps and having the matching colors to fit, it's clear that even though these are two different LEDs with two different color patterns each time, they're connected to the same cycle. So they basically have to use approximations in order to try to fit, but it really doesn't always work. So it's an interesting feature, but it could have been handled a bit better. Next, although a bit tricky to pull off, the Thundergale stamp is also compatible with the two-side driver. It's a matter of making sure it fits in right. Though interestingly, despite being a power-up stamp, it still has the same kind of generic other stamp sound. But we also have the special attack, which does work here too. Next, we can test it with the Revice driver set to Barid Rex genome. Though, as expected, it just activates Yaba Yaba. Then we can test it out with the Owing Buster. And finally, we'll test it with the Gundaphone. And there we go. So overall, I think Thundergale is a pretty cool vice stamp, but I don't really think it's the best of the power-up stamps we've gotten thus far. It does have an interesting gimmick in that turbine, which obviously can be seen as kind of an homage to the old school rider belts, which had a spinning motor inside of them. But it doesn't really seem to have too much besides that. While it does an interesting effect to the lights, there aren't too much in terms of the different sound and light patterns it can make with the belt. And it is interesting that something that does stand out, and it does make quite different, is that it doesn't have any kind of like buddy up sound for the bass transformation, because it's clear they were trying to create a sound pattern that could go on for as long as that turbine could spin. In addition, I don't exactly think that they did that great of a job with the interaction with other vice stamps. As you can see from that, it is the same sounds every time, with the only difference being the scanned stamp announcing its name. But then when you get to the light patterns, that's definitely where the cracks start to show, where they really did try to just create this one set of color cycles and then try to fit and sometimes even force those other vice stamps into patterns that they thought would match. So I really think they could have handled it better, and in a way they maybe could have gone for something like expanding what it could do with the belt rather than trying to force in a stamp scanning gimmick, which I think was better worked on things like the rolling vice stamp, especially in Barid Rex. But that being said, it is still a pretty interesting stamp, and so I do think it would still be one worth adding to a vice stamp collection, especially if you have a Revice driver, but it just does not really match to surpass some of its predecessors that much. Next time, I'll be getting into the first of my premium Bandai Revice items, where I'll be reviewing the Deluxe Demon's Driver. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you're new and would like to see more, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. And for now, this is KRX50, writing off.